Okay, Freddie Highmore, the series finale of Bates Motel aired Monday night on A&E. Fans everywhere are very, very depressed that their favorite show is off the air. They're in a state of shock over what happened at the end. I guess I kind of want to know from your perspective. You were a writer on the show, a director, and of course the star of the show with Vera Farmiga. What does this end of the journey mean to you? What's going through your mind today?
It's just like the morning after something terrible has happened, and you wake up and you think, it is actually real. It's all over. I think we won't hit until a few months down the line, because we are used to finishing last season as well, especially, the end of season 4 felt so climactic with the end of Norma, with Norma's demise. And obviously now Norman has gone, but there's a part of me that thinks, oh no, there's still another season to come. We'll go back together and we'll figure things out somehow, and we'll pull through. That ever, optimist in Norman and Norma, the idea that, as he states in the finale, if you believe hard enough, you can make it that way. I think I'm just trying to, take that on myself and keep thinking that there's a way we'll be able to do season 6. But no, it is over, and it's funny.
It's only been a few hours before the finale aired. There was a great party last night at the Universal Backlot at the Bates Motel. What were fans saying to you after watching it? Were they sad? Did they just want to hug you? What was going through fans' minds?
I liked the way that people were on the journey with Norman until the very end. There seemed to be a sense that even for those who potentially lost a bit of sympathy or empathy for Norman at times in season 4, when he seemed to become a little bit more manipulative and sly and cunning, seemingly for his self-interest, I think that by the end of the show, people realized that he was always trying to do what he thought was best, try and do what he thought would be the best thing for him and his mother. And they were acts of love. These terrible acts that he committed were also acts of love. And so it was nice that people seemed to appreciate that Norman had a good heart, which I do think he did until the very end.
You've said before that you think he's a nice guy, but he's also a brutal serial killer, and he killed his own mother. How is that possible that someone can be nice and also this evil person?
I mean, that's the thing. Like, I don't think maybe I could just be deluded. I could have spent way too much time with Norman, and 5 years later have, lived the same illusion that he does, but thinking that everyone's still alive, that we'll all be back together, and that I'm actually really nice despite killing people. But I don't think he is evil. I think there are times when he's jealous or he acts out of rage. I think his battles with Romero in season 4 and 5 come from a place of someone railing against this person that he feels threatened by, and he feels is impinging on his happiness and stopping him being able to be happy. But perhaps happiness is the key. I think that there's an optimistic side to Norman, and he's always wanted to be happy. He's wanted to have this family, and he wanted Dylan to be a part of it too. And that's, I think, the tragic thing that Max played so amazingly as well in that last scene, is stating that Dylan had that very same dream, the dream that Norman and Norma did too, the dream that they could be together, that they could be a family, that, that Norma would grow up, that Norma would be able to watch his children grow up and be there. And I think that quest for happiness, despite each of them individually and collectively wanting the same thing, they weren't able to make it work. And that's what's heartbreaking.
Well, this is a good time for me to say, spoiler alert, if anyone has not watched the finale, go watch the finale and then come back and finish this interview, because Norman actually bites the bullet. He dies in the finale, and Dylan is the one that kills him, but I think this is more of a suicide by brother kind of a thing. Norman was ready to die, and he wanted Dylan to be the one that did it. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I think that it was certainly a plea. It was and I think it's interesting to see Dylan's reaction to Norman pleading him to kill him and to put him into that better place, to ultimately reunite him with his mother. That's the dark romance of Bates Motel, is it? That's the happy ending, isn't it? But yeah, he I think it was a conscious choice too on Dylan's part to do it. I think it was such a strong end to his character, because it wasn't this act of self-defense of Norman coming at him with a knife and then the gun goes off and it's like, oh, whoopsie, I didn't mean to shoot him. I think Dylan made the choice to do it and knew what he was doing, and it was such a heartbreaking decision for him to have to take as well.
I love the final shot of the series, which is the gravestone where and you know that was Dylan's decision to make sure that Norman got to be buried next to his mother. So that was really an act of love that he did that. What was your thoughts there on the final shot being the tombstone?
I thought it was a beautiful last image, and that it's hopeful, but not in a sickly way, not being too, trying too hard to like tug at the heartstrings, and showing the two of them on a beach in Hawaii in heaven. There was a simplicity to it, and I like the understated nature of it. I think that's what Bates Motel has done well over the years. Is despite very big scenes and big moments and big ideas, it's never become melodramatic, or hopefully not. Hopefully it's never become unbelievably big or silly. It always was grounded in these relationships and the house and the motel and these small little places where their world took place. And so it seems fitting that ultimately they're kind of just forgotten. Norman and his mother had this amazing life, and here they are lying in their tombstone, and their effect on the world is certainly there to see, but could soon be forgotten.
So they are together in death. Physically they are next to each other, and whether there's an afterlife, we don't really know. But I just love that final image of them being together. I am a huge fan of the show. I'm representing with my Bates Motel shirt.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, and I have a question, kind of like a look back question. After 5 seasons, 50 episodes, is there anything you wish Norman had done, or a storyline that had been, maybe rattled around in the writer's room that didn't make it to fruition? Is there anything you wish had been there that you didn't have time to do?
Vera and I were discussing this yesterday. I feel like we really did with those characters, and we had such a small group of people, such a small group of core cast that goes 50 episodes, and you look back at the people who have been in every episode, and you can count them on one hand, and that was what I loved about it, that smallness of it. I know that's not really answering your question, but by dint of it being tiny and little, I think we covered everything that we possibly could have, and that doing another season really where you see Norman and Norma, or a version of his mother, interacting with each other, I think would have been stringing it out too long. And it was nice, seasons 4 and 5, when we got to race towards this conclusion that we know is coming, as opposed to kind of zigzagging around, waiting and not wanting to get to the end too quickly.
Speaking of Vera, for me, she's so fantastic in this final season as mother. What was the final moment, the final scene that you guys had together, and how emotional was that?
It was a really anticlimactic scene. The very last shot that we did was when Norman has brought her up into the house and lays her down on the bed for the first time, and sort of turns from the cupboard and says something that I can't quite remember, but some version of, you lie and rest, I'm just going to go and take care of things in the office. And then walks out the door, and there's this sort of wide shot through one of Tucker, our amazing director over all these years. This shot through the banisters of Vera lying on the bed and Norman walking out. And so the simplicity of that kind of silent last thing that we shot, I guess was a fitting conclusion, that Norman just walks out and leaves her resting peacefully in her bed.
And you did such a great job this final season of really taking on the demented kind of a killer persona. One of my favorite scenes is when Emma comes to visit you when you're behind bars, and she's like, "Am I talking to Norma or Norman?" That was just a fantastic scene to shoot, I bet.
That was great fun. It was great to get to play Norma or Mother more and more as the season went on, to the point where you get to the finale and you think, are we ever going to see Norman again? Is he going to come back to us? And that scene with Olivia was brilliant. Seeing the darker side of Mother and her sort of slyness as she's trying to scheme away. And I guess there was also the scene with Sheriff Green that I liked in the episode that I directed, where Mother, who I'm playing, is trying to convince Sheriff Green that she's actually Norman. And so sort of telling this story with crocodile tears and saying it was all Madeline's fault and, I'm so innocent and I was just trying to protect her. And it felt bizarre to be playing a version of yourself, of this character that you had way back when with Norman, and now you're just mimicking various things that you were doing from Mother's perspective. That's where you sort of realized how insane Norman really was.
That was a fun episode, the one you directed. I think it was called The Body, where
I remember reading the script and thinking, oh, I really lucked out with this episode.
There were so many great moments where you could see, like, it was you on screen, but in the reflection you could see Vera's reflection. That must have been really challenging to do. How did you get some of those shots?
Yeah, the playing with reflections was something we'd done a little bit before on other episodes, but it felt particularly apt for that one. I guess the challenge in that episode too was the fact that it was largely taking place within a police station, and so you wanted to keep it visually interesting, despite the confines of the space that you're in. And so the two-way mirror really helped, expand or seemingly expand the space that we're in and give sort of more choices in terms of how to visually tell the story. But I think in the key moments, as with all things on Bates Motel, the simplicity of the style that Tucker brought to it often just works better than anything. The scenes are so well written that even if they're pages and pages, they can be sustained without needing to, do special camera moves and just really rely on the writing and on the other actors who are so brilliant to pull it through.
Another great scene from that episode was when Romero goes down to the basement and he actually kills a chick. It was such an interesting scene. The dialogue was really, really creative in that scene. What was Ryan Hurst? Was he mad that he got killed off the show?
No, I think he was glad that he had his moment. I think that's what season 5 did well actually too, is that everyone had, even Mother, had her moment of goodbye. Of course, Romero had his moment of goodbye earlier on, and then Norman and Dylan have this big scene that feels final and conclusive for both of them. And Emma, of course, in episode 9, that was her sort of big episode that tied things up from her perspective. So no, Ryan was pleased that he got, this nice last episode. I think one of my favorite, I love both of his scenes in the episode. The other one that was great was when he's out in the snow. I mean, I got lucky with the snow in that episode, and he thinks that Norman might have died for a moment, and you feel how much he cares for him, and there's a genuineness behind him. And Ryan was always playing so brilliantly with the idea that Chick is using Norman or is manipulating him for his own purposes, but deep down actually does, when it comes to it, care about him and fears for the fact that he might die.
So do you have the directing bug now? Do you want to go out and start directing more things and writing more things as well?
I'd love to carry on doing more. Yes. Yeah, I guess if there's if it's the directing bug, if that's what it's called, then yes, I've probably got it. I'd love to direct more for sure.
Looking back, do you remember your first day on set 5 or 6 years ago, and what scene it was, and what was going through your mind?
No, I don't. Someone asked me this the other day, like, what was the first thing you shot? And I really can't remember. I remember meeting Vera in the production office for the first time, and sort of sitting down and meeting one another and thinking, well, I guess, we'll see how long this goes on for. And we kind of hit it off from the very beginning. And here we are 5 years later. I guess no one would have or could have anticipated how fortunate we'd be. But no, I can't. I remember I think the first thing we shot in season 2 was the driving lessons scene, which was great fun to do, where they're bickering away in the car and Norman's trying to learn how to drive and has to overtake the RV. And there are some great bloopers or dailies, I think, from that day of the two of us having a great time. And I do remember coming back in season 2 and thinking, this is great. Like, we're back again, and it seems to have been well received, and maybe we can be doing this for a long time to come, and hoping that would be the case, because it was such a lovely group of people.
What was it like working with Rihanna? I think she was a fan of Bates Motel, and that's how she got this very, very pivotal role. I think she was in 2 episodes, and you had a lot of scenes with her.
She was great. I mean, as you say, she was a fan of the show before coming on, and so was just really excited to be a part of it. But I love what she brought to Marion, the modern take, I think, of Marion Crane, and making her, or wanting to portray a modern woman, as opposed to, having it revert back to the time of Hitchcock. And I think that was a really smart decision too from Kerry and Carlton to ask her to be a part of it. But it was great. What I loved about that episode too, or the 6th episode, when we kind of redid Psycho, was how we saw things from Norman's perspective for the first time. Mm-hmm. And that is the question that you kind of have when you're watching Psycho. If you think about it, what's going on in that house? Like, what is Norman doing up there when you see these shadows and you hear a voice and you hear him arguing with his mother, and you think, what's going on in there? And so it was great fun to get to go up and have these brilliant scenes with Vera where she's trying to force my eye open and, saying like, am I real? Am I real? And looking back at the original film and going through the sort of wacky emotional journey that Norman's going through up there, and then coming down and still trying to be, suave motel manager with this person that he's finding attractive. It was one of my favorite episodes.
Did you guys feel pressure, redoing the Psycho scenes and twisting it so that Marion doesn't die, but Sam dies instead? Was there a pressure on set? Like, we have to make sure we get this right, but we have to do it our own way.
Yeah, I think there was certainly a desire to do it, to pay homage and fitting homage to the original film, but do our own thing. And I think hopefully we accomplished that. I mean, we've got 2 shower scenes, so there's 2 of them there that we doubled up on the homage, if you like. But that's what I think worked well for the show. I think it was the right decision to have Marion live and Sam die in the shower, and he got the comeuppance that he ultimately deserved, in the same way Romero did.
Well, here at Gold Derby, we are going to beat the drum for the next few months, because we really, really think that Bates Motel went out on a high note, and we want to make sure all of the Emmy voters know that this is a show you need to be watching. This is a show that you need to nominate. Particularly for you for Best Actor, and Vera, she's in the Supporting Actress category this year. What would that mean if you got that nomination?
I mean, well, thank you very much. Of course, it would be a lovely way to end things, to get that sort of recognition. I mean, I'm optimistic, but I feel like I'm tempting fate to talk about it too much. But of course, it would be the most and lovely honor to receive.
We were so happy last year. The show got nominated for Best Cinematography and Best Music Composition as well. So people in the Academy, they are watching the show.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Well, Freddie, it was great to talk to you today. I have a feeling people will be talking about this character and this show for many, many years and decades. So I hope you're prepared to hear a lot of shower jokes going forward and a lot of crazy, insane jokes. But it was a fantastic ride, and I'm glad that we got to take it with you.
No, thank you very much. Thank you for watching.
Thanks.
Cheers.